The Valdorian Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds, fleets that blotted out suns and weapons that silenced entire civilizations. They expected Earth to kneel like all the rest. Instead, we offered them coffee. Their threats were met with sarcasm. Their ultimatums became meme material, because humans don't break. We bend, we adapt, and we get back up, laughing, bleeding, and building something better. They came expecting submission. What they found was the most dangerously unimpressed species in the galaxy. We are the unbreakable ones, and we never got the memo that we were supposed to lose. You want us to what now? Supreme Commander Zix Thalen of the Valdorian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Cosmic Dominator, watching the small blue planet grow larger on the main display. His scaled hide rippled with satisfaction as his fleet of 300 warships took position around the third planet of what the locals called the Sol System. This would be another easy conquest. The Valdorian Empire had been expanding across the galaxy for over 2 millennia, and they had perfected the art of subjugation. Most species surrendered immediately upon seeing their vast fleets. Those that didn't quickly learned why the Valdorian Empire controlled over 4,000 star systems. Communications Officer Velnix, open a channel to the planet's surface, Zix Thalen commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never been denied anything in his life. Channel Opa Supreme Commander. The Universal Translation Matrix and began the speech he had given countless times before. Primitive inhabitants of the third planet, I am Supreme Commander Zix Thalen of the mighty Valdorian Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You will surrender all governmental authority, will provide tribute of 50% of your planetary resources, and submit to imperial rule. You have one of your planetary rotations to comply. Resistance is futile and will result in the complete destruction of your civilization. The transmission ended, and Zix Thalen settled back into his command throne with satisfaction. The humans would need a few hours to panic properly, then their leaders would inevitably contact him with their pathetic surrender. It was always the same pattern. What he received 6 hours later was not what he expected. Hi there, came a cheerful voice from the planet's surface. This is Dr. Maya Patel from the International Space Cooperation Initiative. Thanks for reaching out. We're super excited to meet our first alien visitors. We've got a bunch of questions. First off, how do your ships generate thrust without visible exhaust? Are you using some kind of reactionless drive? And what's your atmospheric composition? You sound like you might be from a high-pressure environment. Also, that translation thing you're using is fascinating. Are you processing our languages in real time? Or did you already have them in your database? Zix Thalen stared at the communication console in confusion. What? What is she talking about? Where is their leader's surrender? Ambassador Crevior, the Empire's chief diplomat, checked his readings. Supreme Commander, it appears they are asking questions about our technology rather than submitting to our demands. That's impossible. They saw our fleet. They heard our ultimatum. Why aren't they terrified? Perhaps they didn't understand the severity of their situation, suggested Weapons Master Quindex. Shall I demonstrate our power by destroying one of their cities? No, Zix Thalen said quickly. The Empire needed these humans alive for their labor force. Send another message. Make our position clearer. The second transmission was more direct. Humans of Earth, perhaps you misunderstood. We are here to conquer your planet. You must surrender immediately or face destruction. This is not a diplomatic visit. We are your new rulers. The response came even faster this time, from a different human. Hey there, alien friends! This is Captain Jake Morrison, formerly of the U.S. Air Force, now working with the Global Defense Initiative. Look, we appreciate the whole intimidation thing. Really professional work there. But we're going to have to pass on the surrender option. It's not that we don't respect your firepower or anything. It's just that surrendering really isn't our style. But hey, since you're here, want to grab some coffee and chat? We make excellent coffee. Zix Thalen's scales flushed purple with confusion. In growing anger, they're refusing to surrender. Don't they understand what we're capable of? Perhaps a demonstration would be appropriate. Weapons Master Quindex suggested again. Fine. Target one of their uninhabited landmasses. Show them what our plasma cannons can do. The Cosmic Dominator fired a controlled burst at a barren section of the Australian outback. The beam carved a canyon 5 kilometers long and half a kilometer deep, turning sand and rock into glass. There, Zixtalen announced with satisfaction. Now they'll understand. The human response arrived 30 minutes later. Wow, that is seriously impressive firepower. What? Dr. Patel's voice was filled with genuine excitement. We're reading temperatures that exceeded 50,000 degrees Celsius at the impact point. That's incredible energy efficiency. How are you? Generating that kind of focused plasma. And the precision. You managed to avoid hitting any wildlife reserves or Aboriginal sacred sites. Either you have amazing targeting systems, or you did your homework on our geography. Very considerate, either way. Zixtalen slammed his fist on his command throne. They're impressed? They should be cowering in terror? Ambassador Krevol looked over his cultural analysis reports with growing confusion. Supreme Commander, I'm detecting no signs of fear response from the human population. Instead, there's been a significant increase in what they call scientific interest and excitement. Many of their communication networks are discussing the technological implications of our arrival. What about their military? Surely they're mobilizing for a hopeless last stand. Negative, sir. Their military forces remain at normal alert levels. However, we are detecting increased activity at their educational institutions. Many of their scientists and engineers appear to be converging on the impact site to study the effects of our weapon. Zixtalen stood up abruptly. They're studying our weapons? That's not how this is supposed to work. Over the next few days, the situation only became more bizarre. Every attempt at intimidation was met with curiosity rather than fear. When the Valdorians demonstrated their ability to manipulate local weather patterns, human meteorologists published papers about it. When they showed off their force field technology by deflecting a large asteroid, human physicists started developing theories about the underlying principles. Most frustrating of all, the humans kept inviting them down for meetings. Look, Captain Morrison explained during their latest communication. We get that you're probably used to species just rolling over when you show up with the big scary fleet. But here's the thing about humans. We're pretty hard to impress with. Threats. Not because we're not aware of the danger, mind you. We just have this weird habit of getting curious about things that are supposed to scare us. Dr. Patel added, plus, you're the most advanced civilization we've ever encountered. Do you have any idea how many questions we have? Scientific? Collaboration opportunities alone are incredible. We could learn so much from each other. Zixtalen found himself in an unprecedented situation. The humans weren't submitting, but they also weren't fighting. They were treating the potential conquest of their world like an opportunity for academic exchange. Supreme Commander Ambassador Krevol reported, the humans have sent us a formal invitation to attend something they call a First Contact Conference. Apparently, they've organized representatives from all their major nations, scientific institutions, and what they call cultural organizations to meet with us. They want to negotiate terms of surrender? No, sir. They want to establish diplomatic relations. In cultural exchange programs, they've also sent us a preliminary list of questions about our technology, culture, and civilization. The list is ... extensive. Zixtalen looked at the datapad containing the human questions. It was over 400 pages long, covering everything from Valdorian reproductive biology to the mathematical principles behind their faster-than-light drives. They want to know about our reproductive biology, he asked weakly. Purely for scientific purposes, they assure us. They seem particularly interested in what they call xenobiology in comparative evolution. Weapons Master Quindex stepped forward. Supreme Commander, perhaps we should simply destroy a major population center. That would certainly get their attention. No, Zixtalen said firmly. Empire needs workers, not corpses. And besides, he paused, realizing he was about to admit something that no Valdorian commander had ever said before. I'm starting to think that might not work either. The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. These humans seemed genuinely unconcerned about the threat the Valdorian Empire represented. Not because they were unaware of the danger, but because They approached everything, even potential conquest, with an attitude of aggressive curiosity that was completely foreign to Valdorian experience. "Sir," Communications Officer Velnix announced, "we're receiving another transmission from the planet's surface. Put it through Zixalan's side. This time it was a different human, a woman with gray hair and a warm smile. Greetings, Valdorian. Fleet. I'm Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Secretary General of the United Nations. I wanted to personally thank you for your patience during this first contact period. We understand this probably isn't going the way you expected, but we're really excited about the possibilities here." She continued, "We've been thinking about your offer to rule our planet. While we appreciate the thought, we're going to have to decline. However, we'd love to discuss alternative arrangements, perhaps a mutual defense pact, or a technology sharing agreement. We have some innovations that might interest you. Did you know we've developed over 300 different ways to prepare caffeinated beverages? We'd be happy to share." Stalin looked around his bridge at his equally confused crew. In 2,000 years of galactic conquest, the Valdorian Empire had never encountered anything like this. Supreme Commander, Ambassador Krivor, said quietly, "I'm beginning to think we may need to reconsider our approach with these humans." "What do you mean?" They don't seem to respond to traditional intimidation tactics. "Perhaps we should actually attend their conference." The Zixtalan's scales rippled with indignation. "The Valdorian Empire does not attend conferences with primitives. With respect, sir, these primitives have spent the last week studying our technology and asking questions that suggest a level of scientific sophistication we may have underestimated. Also, they've started broadcasting some of their own technological achievements to us. Apparently, they've developed something called coffee that they claim can improve cognitive function by up to 30%. Zixtalan had to admit he was curious about the coffee. The humans had also sent them information about their mathematical theories, quantum physics research, and something called the Internet that seemed to be a planetary scale information sharing network. "Fine," he said finally. "Prepare a shuttle. We'll meet with their representatives. But this is not a negotiation. We're simply gathering intelligence on their capabilities." As Zixtalan prepared for what would be the most unusual diplomatic mission in Valdorian history, he couldn't shake the feeling that somehow, despite commanding an overwhelming military advantage, he was not the one in control of this situation. The humans had managed to do something no species had ever done before. They had made the mighty Valdorian Empire feel uncertain. And they had accomplished this not through military might or advanced technology, but through the simple expedient of treating potential conquerors like interesting house guests. Swyxthalin was beginning to understand why the humans used the phrase, "We don't give a damn" so frequently in their communications. It wasn't that they were unaware of danger. They simply refused to let fear change how they approached the world it was. He realized with growing unease a remarkably effective strategy. Well, that didn't work either 3 months after first contact. Supreme Commander Zixtalan found himself in the most frustrating position of his long military career. The Valdorian Empire had tried every standard conquest protocol in their extensive playbook, and each attempt had not only failed but somehow made the humans stronger. The economic embargo had been the first escalation. The Empire had blockaded Earth's solar system, preventing any trade with other civilizations and demanding the humans submit to avoid economic collapse. The humans had responded by treating it like a puzzle to solve. Dr. Maya Patel, who had somehow become Earth's unofficial chief alien liaison, had sent them a cheerful message: "Thanks for the trade embargo. It's really motivated our engineers to get creative. We've managed to increase our solar energy efficiency by 40% and developed 3 new types of asteroid mining techniques. Also, we've invented something called vertical farming that's revolutionized our food production. It's isolation. Thing is working out great for our innovation programs." Captain Jake Morrison had added his own message. "Plus, we've been reverse engineering some of that technology you've been so kindly demonstrating for us. Our physicists are having a field day with your force field principles. Dr. Chen, in particular, wanted me to thank you for the plasma cannon demonstration. She's figured out how to generate similar effects using controlled fusion reactions. Much more energy efficient than whatever you guys are using." Zixtalan had thrown his ceremonial war helmet across his quarters when he received that, Transmission? The technological demonstrations had backfired even more spectacularly. Every time the Valdorians showed off their advanced capabilities, human scientists treated it like a masterclass in applied physics. When the Empire demonstrated their ability to manipulate gravitational fields, human theoretical physicists had published papers explaining the probable mechanisms within days. When they showed their advanced material science by constructing a temporary orbital platform, human engineers had developed improved alloys based on their observations of Valdorian construction techniques. Most infuriatingly, the humans had started improving on Valdorian technology. Supreme Commander reported Chief Science Officer Drolvex, his voice thick with disbelief. The humans have somehow developed a more efficient version of our plasma containment systems. Their version uses 30% less energy and generates more stable plasma streams. That's impossible, Zixtalin said flatly. Our technology is the result of millennia of development by the galaxy's most advanced civilization. Nevertheless, sir, they've sent us the specifications. They're offering to share the improvements in the spirit of scientific cooperation. They've also asked if we'd like to see their new fusion reactor designs. Ambassador Crevio looked up from his cultural analysis reports with the expression of someone who had given up trying to understand the universe. Supreme Commander, the humans have started broadcasting something they call educational television to our fleet. They're teaching our crew members about human history, science, and culture. What? Why are our people watching human broadcasts? Because the humans make it entertaining, sir. They've somehow made learning about quantum mechanics engaging. Many of our crew members are requesting permission to attend what the humans call online courses. Engineering Officer Tick Spall has apparently earned what the humans call a degree in theoretical physics. Sixthalon felt his carefully maintained composure beginning to crack.
Ow!
Our own people are being educated by the species we're supposed to be conquering?
It gets worse, sir.
The humans have offered to provide educational exchange programs for our entire crew. They're particularly interested in what they call comparative xenobiology and interstellar cultural studies. They want to learn about other species we've encountered. The military demonstrations had been the final straw. When the Empire had staged massive war games near Earth's moon, complete with simulated planetary bombardments and fleet-to-fleet combat exercises, the humans had responded by setting up observation stations to get better views. This is amazing, Dr. Patel had gushed during one transmission. Your tactical formations are brilliant. We're learning so much about three-dimensional combat strategies. Our military academies are already incorporating these techniques into their curricula. Could you possibly demonstrate that pincer movement again? Our analysts want to study the coordination protocols. Captain Morrison had been equally enthusiastic, and the way you coordinate between different ship classes is incredibly sophisticated. We've never seen such effective use of overlapping fields of fire. Mind if we ask about your command and control systems? The response time between your command ship and the outer elements of your formation suggests some kind of instantaneous communication. Are you using quantum entanglement? Engineer Rosa Chen, who had become the humans' chief technology adaptation specialist, had sent her own message. The energy management in your capital ships is fascinating. The way you distribute power between weapons, shields, and propulsion suggests a much more flexible architecture than our current designs. We've started working on similar systems for our space program. Would you be willing to participate in some joint engineering projects? Zixtalin had watched his carefully planned intimidation display, being treated like an educational seminar with growing desperation. The breaking point had come when the humans started sharing their own innovations with the Valdorian fleet. They sent us improved ration recipes, reported Supply Officer Nexgill. Supreme Commander, I've never tasted anything like this pizza they've introduced to our food synthesizers. The crew is requesting more. They've also provided entertainment programming, added Communications Officer Velnix, something called science fiction that depicts imaginary scenarios of space exploration and alien contact. Our crew finds it highly amusing, particularly a series called Star Trek that seems to predict many aspects of our current situation. And they've offered to help upgrade our exercise facilities, said Medical Officer Chinvex. Apparently, they've developed something called variable gravity fitness programs that would be beneficial for long-duration space travel. They've also shared medical techniques that could extend average Valdorian lifespan by 15%.
Nice.
Zixtalan slumped in his command chair. The humans had somehow turned his conquest fleet into the galaxy's first interstellar cultural exchange program. The situation had grown even more complicated when other species started taking notice. Supreme Commander, Ambassador Krivo, reported, "We're receiving inquiries from 17 different civilizations, asking about our peaceful first contact protocols with the humans. Word is spreading that the mighty Valdorian Empire has discovered a species so advanced that we're engaging in diplomatic cooperation rather than conquest." "That's not what's happening," Zixtalan protested. "I understand that, sir, but that's how it appears to the rest of the galaxy. The humans have been broadcasting their interactions with us throughout local space. They're presenting it as a successful model for interstellar relations. 3 different species have requested permission to visit Earth to observe these new diplomatic techniques." Zixtalan realized with growing horror that the humans had accidentally turned him into the galaxy's poster child for peaceful alien contact. The final humiliation had come that morning. Humans had sent a formal request for the Valdorian Empire to join something they called the Interstellar Cooperation Initiative. "They want us to join them?" Zixtalan asked weakly. "Yes, sir. They're proposing a mutual defense pact, technology sharing agreements, and what they call cultural enrichment programs. They've also offered to help us resolve conflicts with other species using what they call creative problem-solving techniques." Dr. Rodriguez's message had been particularly galling. "We've been thinking about your situation, Commander Zixtalan. You've got this huge empire to manage, and that must be incredibly stressful. Have you considered alternative governance models? We've developed some interesting approaches to conflict resolution and resource management that might reduce your administrative burden. We'd be happy to share our research on sustainable civilization management," Captain Morrison had added. "Plus, we've noticed that some of your subject species seem unhappy with current arrangements. We've got experience with helping diverse populations work together peacefully. Maybe we can help mediate some of those situations. We're really good at finding solutions that work for everyone." Engineer Chen had included technical specifications. "We've also been working on some infrastructure improvements that could benefit your empire. More efficient resource distribution, improved communication networks, and what we call democratic governance protocols that have proven very effective for managing large populations. Want to take a look?" Zixtalan stared at the messages with the expression of someone watching his entire worldview collapse in real time. "Sir," Weapons Master Quindex said quietly, "perhaps it's time to consider that conventional conquest may not be the appropriate approach with this species." "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting, sir, that the humans may have inadvertently conquered us." The bridge fell silent as the implications of that statement sank in. "How?" Zixtalan asked. "They've made our crew happier, healthier, and more educated. They've improved our technology and our food. They've offered to solve our administrative problems and help us maintain better relations with our subject species. And they've done all of this while making us look like enlightened peacekeepers to the rest of the galaxy." Ambassador Crevio nodded slowly. "They've essentially made surrender look like victory, sir. If we accept their proposals, we gain access to their innovations and their diplomatic techniques. If we refuse, we look like the aggressors in a conflict where they've been nothing but helpful and cooperative." Zixtalan realized he was trapped. The humans had somehow maneuvered the situation so that every option available to him would result in them getting what they wanted. "They did this on purpose," he said with dawning recognition. "No, sir," Chief Science Officer Drelvax replied. "I don't think they did. Based on our analysis of their communications and behavior patterns, they appear to be genuinely sincere. In all their interactions with us, they really are just curious, cooperative, and persistently optimistic about finding mutually beneficial solutions. Then how? ... Because, sir, they don't care about losing in the traditional sense. They've turned every disadvantage into an opportunity to learn and improve. They've made their potential conquest into a chance for scientific advancement. They've treated our threats as interesting problems to solve, rather than reasons to surrender." Understood with crystalline clarity that he had encountered something unprecedented in galactic history. Species that was absolutely impossible to intimidate because they found intimidation attempts intellectually stimulating rather than frightening. Humans had won by refusing to acknowledge that they were supposed to lose. Okay, we give up. Just kidding, 6 months after the most confusing first contact in galactic history, Supreme Commander Zixthalon stood in the war room of the Valdorian High Command, facing the most powerful beings in the Empire. The Supreme Council's emergency session had been called to address what the official reports euphemistically called the Earth situation. "Explain to us, Commander," hissed Supreme Overlord Vexthalon, ancient scales displaying the deep purple of barely controlled rage, how you have managed to turn a simple planetary conquest into a galactic diplomatic crisis. Vexthalon straightened his shoulders. "Supreme Overlord, the humans have proven resistant to conventional conquest techniques." Resistant? General Kickstor slammed his massive fist on the war table. "Half our fleet is now requesting transfers to Earth for cultural exchange programs. Our own soldiers are asking for permission to study human philosophy and something called jazz music, and they've somehow convinced the Meridian Alliance to file formal complaints about our aggressive expansion policies," added Intelligence Director Velsax. "Species that have feared us for centuries are now questioning our methods because the humans have made our empire look like incompetent bullies." Supreme Overlord Vexthalon's eyes glowed with fury. "Most disturbing of all, our subject worlds are beginning to request human-style governance reforms." The rebellion on Kepler 7 was suppressed only after the insurgents demanded something they called basic civil rights and democratic representation. Zixthalon felt the weight of 2 millennia of imperial tradition pressing down on him. "Supreme Overlord, perhaps it's time to consider that our approach to the humans requires ... adjustment." Adjustment. The Supreme Overlord rose to her full height of 4 meters, her war spines extending in threat display. "The Valdorian Empire does not adjust for primitives." "With respect," Supreme Overlord Zixthalon said carefully, "the humans may not be as primitive as we initially assessed." The room erupted in angry hissing and claw-clicking as the assembled commanders expressed their outrage. Only Intelligence Director Velsax remained calm. "What are you suggesting, Commander?" she asked quietly. "I'm suggesting that the humans have systematically neutralized every advantage we possess without firing a single shot. They've turned our military superiority into educational opportunities, our economic pressure into innovation incentives, and our intimidation tactics into diplomatic victories." General Kickstor's scales flushed red. "Primitives with barely functional space travel. Primitives who have improved our plasma cannon efficiency by 40%, Zixthalon countered. Primitives who have developed better resource management systems than our best administrators. Primitives who have somehow convinced half the galaxy that the Valdorian Empire is entering a new era of enlightened cooperation." Supreme Overlord Vexthalon sat back down slowly. "Explain." "They don't fight us directly because they don't need to. Every time we escalate, they adapt and improve. Every time we threaten them, they treat it as a learning opportunity. Every time we try to demonstrate our superiority, they find ways to make it mutually beneficial." Intelligence Director Velsax activated her holoprojector. "Correct. Our analysis shows that the humans have been systematically studying our weaknesses while reinforcing our strengths. They've made us more efficient, more innovative, and more diplomatically sophisticated, but they've also made us dependent on their cooperation." The holographic display showed a complex web of technological and cultural exchanges between Earth and the Valdorian fleet. "Look at this," Velsax continued. "Our crew efficiency is up 30% since they introduced their team-building exercises. Our medical systems have improved dramatically with their health and wellness programs. Our supply lines are more efficient thanks to their logistics innovations. But," she paused for emphasis, "they now have complete specifications for our military technology, detailed intelligence on our command structure, and comprehensive cultural profiles of our entire leadership hierarchy." The war room fell silent as the implications became clear. "They've infiltrated us," General Kickstor said with dawning horror. "No," Zixthalon replied. "They've improved us. They've done it so effectively that removing their influence would cripple our operational efficiency. Supreme Overlord Vexthalon studied the intelligence reports with growing unease. What do they want? That's the most disturbing part, Intelligence Director Velsax replied. Based on all our analysis, they genuinely seem to want mutually beneficial cooperation. They're not trying to conquer us or undermine us. They're trying to help us become better at being ourselves. But why? Zixtalon activated his own data pad because Supreme Overlord, they're operating under a completely different set of assumptions about how civilization should work.
Ow.
They believe that cooperation produces better results than domination, that diversity of thought leads to innovation, and that treating potential enemies as potential friends usually works out better for everyone involved. That's ridiculous, General Kickstor protested. Strength through conquest has served the Empire for 2,000 years. Has it? Intelligence Director Velsax asked quietly. Our subject worlds require constant military oversight to prevent rebellion. Our expansion has slowed because we've conquered all the easy targets. Our resources are stretched thin, maintaining control over territories that produce less value than they cost to govern. She activated another holographic display. The humans have suggested alternative models. Instead of conquest, they propose what they call cooperative development partnerships. Instead of tribute, they suggest mutual trade agreements. Instead of military occupation, they recommend diplomatic collaboration. Supreme Overlord Vexthalon examined the human proposals with interest despite herself. And you believe these alternatives would be more effective? The preliminary analysis suggests they could be significantly more effective, Velsax confirmed. Lower costs, higher productivity, less resistance, and better long-term stability. But we would no longer be an empire, General Kickstor objected. We would be... what? Confederation, Zixtalon said. The humans call it the Interstellar Cooperation Initiative. They've invited us to be founding members. The Supreme Overlord's scales rippled with confusion. They want us to join them as equals? They want us to join them as partners. They've been very clear that they value what they call our organizational expertise, logistical capabilities. They think we could help them manage large-scale interstellar cooperation. Intelligence Director Velsax added, they've also offered to help us transition our current subject worlds to what they call autonomous partnership status. They believe most of our subjects would be more productive and less troublesome if they were voluntary allies rather than conquered territories. The war room fell into contemplative silence. Finally, Supreme Overlord Vexthalon spoke. You're telling me that these humans have conquered the unconquerable Valdorian Empire by making us better at everything we do, and then offering to help us manage the galaxy more effectively? Yes, Supreme Overlord. And they did this not through military force or superior technology, but by being relentlessly helpful and optimistic? Yes, Supreme Overlord. And their ultimate goal is to create a galaxy-wide civilization based on voluntary cooperation and mutual benefit. Yes, Supreme Overlord, Vexthalon's scales cycled through several colors before settling on an amused shade of green. I hate to admit this, but they may be the most dangerous species in the galaxy. How so, Supreme Overlord? Because they've made the concept of conquest obsolete. Why would anyone choose to fight them when cooperation produces better results? Why would anyone resist joining their initiative when membership provides more benefits than independence? General Kickstor's scales flushed pale with realization. They're going to conquer the entire galaxy without firing a shot. Exactly, the Supreme Overlord confirmed. And they're going to do it by making everyone happier, healthier, more prosperous, and more fulfilled than they were before.